So much like in life, sometimes wrestling makes a mistake. That's mostly okay. I mean, even if you offend somebody, if you come out after the fact and say, listen, I didn't mean to do that, please accept our forgiveness, well, maybe that's what you're gonna get. But as you already know, 9 times out of 10, the industry turns around and says, no, we have an excuse for that. And then they start to make it worse. It basically comes down to the fact that not all excuses are valid. So hello, my friends, I am Simon Miller. And let us sit down or stand, it's totally up to you, and talk about the worst excuses for terrible wrestling moments. So what happened here? Well, James Ellsworth, who did go on a bit of a run on the WWE main roster, was involved in the first ever Women's Money in the Bank match. That made sense, he was friends with Carmella. He can just stand outside the ring and look like a buffoon. Why the flub not? And then during the 2017 pay-per-view, it was actually Ellsworth that shimmied his way up the ladder, grabbed the briefcase, and pulled it down before tossing it to his now best pal. Now on television, WWE explained this by sending Daniel Bryan, the then SmackDown GM, out there so he could say, well, this is actually super duper great because now we can do a rematch and won't that be awesome? You could all watch it on free TV. Well, no, that did not sit well with fans at all because most people said, excuse me, did you just have a male wrestler win the first ever female Money in the Bank contest? And the answer, in a roundabout way, was yes. It was pretty damn dumb. Now listen, James Ellsworth could have got involved over and over again with other competitors throwing him out the ring, but this really did take a historic moment and flushed it down the toilet. And if you've watched any of the Attitude Era, you know that's the last thing the WWE needed to be doing, especially in 2017. Let's just face it, this was a massive mistake, but don't pretend getting a rematch counts as making it all right. Number 9, WWE didn't write an anonymous GM conclusion. So you all remember this one, because in 2010, Vince McMahon decided what the WWE really needed was an anonymous Raw general manager who would make decisions. If you're brand new to wrestling and wondering how that worked, well, there was a laptop next to Michael Cole, and when it made a noise, the lead commentator would go over and read an email. If you're now screaming into the abyss, don't worry, we all were too. The idea totally got killed in 2011 before From Nowhere returned in 2012 because Vince decided that Hornswoggle should be the culprit from all of this, meaning years and years worth of television was meant to be a joke. In fact, I'm sure you can figure this one out as well, but the excuse that WWE gave us behind the scenes was that when Vince McMahon came up with this idea, he didn't have an ending, so there was no one actually chosen. Now listen, it doesn't matter whether it's wrestling, some kind of TV show, or a movie. You can't write a story if you don't know the conclusion, so we should have picked someone here and decided, we're gonna push you at the end of this, and in fact we did the opposite and we just pissed everybody off. I mean, imagine you watch The Wizard of Oz and when you get into his special chamber, it's just a blank seat. I mean, maybe you could have assumed it was John Cena, but I doubt it. And I suppose some of you could argue, well, at least then we did get Hornswoggle. But I would tell you to go and watch this today, and you can tell me if you think it's good television. I can tell you can't change my mind. I thought it sucked. Number 8, The Fiend and Seth Rollins need a rematch stipulation. So given that Seth Rollins had been pushed to the brink by Bray Wyatt's hijinks in 2019, they did compete in Hell in a Cell when Seth decided to smash Bray Wyatt's face with a sledgehammer. The referee then stopped this contest, which sent the world into meltdown because this was the Hell in a Cell, and the whole point was you don't get a stoppage, it can just go on and on and on until we get a winner. It was absolutely ridiculous. And this got so bad that fans actually booed the finish, and it affected Seth Rollins so much we had to abandon his babyface turn and turn him heel. I mean, that is proper bottom of the barrel stuff. Now, of course, WWE did this for 2 reasons. The first being, they thought this was going to protect Bray Wyatt's Fiend character. Well, I'll tell you a better way to do that. Just have him win. The second one they came up with is that they thought it handed creative an easy route to get to a follow-up match in Saudi Arabia at Crown Jewel. And sure, they did that and Bray Wyatt became the world champion. But at the same time, don't take the Hell in a Cell stipulation and flush it down the toilet. You'll never be able to convince me that they didn't see this coming. The best part about round 2 as well is that we got told this match cannot be stopped for any reason, but they forgot to say pinfalls. So really, it should be going on right now. The truth, of course, is that WWE just booked a stupid finish for that Hell in a Cell and then had to get out of jail as quickly as they possibly could. But this ruined WWE television for ages, and poor Seth Rollins took forever before he found balance again. Don't like to use bad words, but let's just say it was unforgivable, SHITE. And once again, you don't have to believe me, the evidence is all there. Number 7, AEW's big explosion goes out with a whimper. So if you tuned into AEW Revolution 2021 for the Kenny Omega John Moxley barbed wire explosion, oh my gosh, can you believe it match? Well, you probably finished the night being very confused, because just when the whole ring was about to go kaboom, instead we just got some sparklers. Felt sorry for Eddie Kingston as well, who had run down to the ring to protect his best friend. Then he had to lay there like he was about to be engulfed in fireworks. But no, I think a child could have handled this. Now, of course, this was awful and AEW knew it too. Just go and watch the subsequent Dynamite. And I suppose to try and save some face, the company said, hey man, we brought on a pyrotechnic team and everything was fine in rehearsals. We don't understand what happened. This was one of those occasions we've already talked about though, where you do just have to hold your hands up and say, all right, we dropped the ball here. We're just going to dust ourselves off and carry on. What made it even worse is that Japanese wrestling explosion legend Atsushi Onita was literally talking about this during the build. And man, you don't want to crap on his legacy either. Now, fair play to everybody involved in this, because they did go on Dynamite and kind of made it a funny. But yeah, fans were really mad about this, and I understand why. You paid a lot of money for the pay-per-view. Number 6, the Usos blame a WrestleMania time cut. So of course, back at WrestleMania Saturday in April 2024, we did get the big Uso match as Jimmy took on Jay, and good grief, a lot of people did not like this. Though I will say it definitely didn't hit expectations, but it's nowhere near as bad as some people made out. But given that it did go down on WrestleMania, yeah, sure, it was a little bit forgettable. That's not what you want. Looking back now, of course, it was also meant to take Jey Uso up to the next level, and we didn't achieve that ever, so it's just one of those things that didn't come together. I think Jay and Jimmy knew this as well, and when they were asked about it in an interview, they said, well, you know what, our time got cut, and we should have gone longer. And of course, the fans responded to that by going, no, man, we didn't want to see any more of this. That definitely wasn't the issue. Now, of course, wrestlers are very delicate when it comes to time, which I can completely understand, because if you've got a story you want to tell, you don't want to all of a sudden lose a bunch of minutes. But this is yet another one of those situations where you just look at the floor and you walk away, and you go back out on the next pay-per-view and you absolutely kill it, and then the crowd's going to move on anyway. We see it all the time. I do want to end this one, though, by saying the aftermath has made this far worse than it actually is. It's like a very average match that just so happens to go down on the show of shows. It is most definitely not the worst thing you will ever see. Number 5, WWF just couldn't get those WCW big names. So when the WWF bought out WCW in March 2001, everybody got excited because we were about to have the invasion angle. Can you imagine Goldberg, Ric Flair, Sting, Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash actually coming to the World Wrestling Federation and starting a war? This was going to be the best moment in sports entertainment history. And it was totally crap because none of the guys I just talked to you about actually turned up. Now, the reason for this is because if you worked for WCW when it did close, your contracts were actually covered by AOL. So if you just wanted to sit at home and make your money, you didn't have to do a damn thing, and the money was still going to come in the mailbox. It meant that Vince McMahon and co would have to overspend to get these stars, so they decided against it, mostly because they didn't want to break the WWE wage structure. I mean, if all of a sudden they paid these individuals more, Steve Austin would be knocking at the door too. And while I can understand all that, do you understand what a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity this was? The WWF was about to make monster money anyway in 2001, so we should have opened that damn checkbook and signed every single one of them to WWF deals. It means now when we did look back at the invasion, we wouldn't be crying into our cornflakes, and we probably would be saying, my gosh, that was the best thing that has ever happened bar none. It got even more ridiculous because of course the years after this they all did turn up anyway, usually to a lesser impact. This was dumb and this was stupid, and all you really needed was the NWO and Goldberg anyway. I mean, wonders never cease. Number 4, nobody would predict David Arquette. So I'm sure you've heard of this, but on the off chance you haven't, on the 26th of April 2000 episode of WCW Thunder, Vince Russo thought it would be a great idea to make David Arquette, yes the actor, the WCW World Champion. Now every time I do talk about David, I like to point out he took all his wrestling money and gave it to wrestling families who had suffered a tragedy. So that guy is awesome. It's also proper shenanigans because somehow Arquette won it in a tag team match. And why did we do this? Because we thought it would shock so many people they would tune into Nitro. I can tell you this, my friends, they did not. Now, yes, while it was Tony Schiavone who came up with this idea, I'm 99% sure he was joking. And in terms of Vince Russo, he loved it for the same reason he loved everything that was a swerve. The audience is never going to see it coming. But by that logic, you can make an elephant the WCW champion. I don't think anybody's going to see that coming too. Even Arquette, when this was presented to him, said, yeah, I don't think we should do that, but he went along with it anyway, and fans absolutely hated it. I mean, if you were into WCW, the last thing you wanted was WWE sports entertainment BS, and that's what you got. But hey man, it's a swerve, bro, and nobody's going to see it coming. Flab off. Number 3, Cody Rhodes needed better facials. Now listen, no, I'm not about to start talking to you in sexual innuendo, but I am going to go back to the February 2024 edition of SmackDown when, yes, Royal Rumble winner Cody Rhodes walked to the ring and said, you know what, I am not going to fight you, Roman Reigns, because The Rock's going to instead. Quite funny when you do watch that show now, the fans are well into this, and over the weekend it all went nuts. And that is because people decided they didn't want Cody Rhodes to go away, so the We Want Cody hashtag began, and after the fact, all the WWE bigwigs got together to talk about this, and they even made a documentary about it. Now, I don't know whether ex-WWE writer and The Rock's main man Brian Gewirtz meant it like he did say it, but he said the reason he felt like this didn't go to plan is because Cody Rhodes didn't have the right facial expression. Now, Cody does look very sad as he is walking to the back, but that's because he was sad. The real-life Cody Reynolds absolutely wanted that match. The thing is, I do not buy the fact that if the American Nightmare did skip away pumping his fist, the fans would have reacted any differently. They just wanted to see Cody finish his story, and they wanted to see it at WrestleMania 40. This wasn't anything even to do with The Rock. We all know that he's an all-timer anyway. It's just where we were in our lives. Sometimes wrestling fans can be very stubborn. So I really don't know why Gewirtz said that, and again, maybe it was just for the documentary itself, but yeah, there's nothing Cody could have done here, because a wrestling fan wants what a wrestling fan wants. Number 2, AEW airs the CM Punk footage. So everything that happened with CM Punk and AEW at the end of his tenure there was bad. And yes, once he had left, there was a horrible cloud over the promotion. Doesn't matter whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's just what happened. Sometimes businesses do get affected by outside ongoings. There was so much controversy about this from both sides that on the 10th of April 2024 episode of Dynamite, Tony Khan did decide to air the footage backstage at Wembley when, yes, CM Punk and Jack Perry got into it when they had a little bit of a scuffle. Back then, people didn't really understand why he was doing it, and even today, well, it doesn't really feel like the best choice. The Young Bucks introduced this segment as well, which of course tied into the story away from the ring, which is also a little bit confusing. And mostly this came off the back of a CM Punk Ariel Helwani interview where AEW wanted to put their side forward. Now I could understand that because again, there was a lot of mudslinging here, but sometimes I just think it's better to turn the other cheek. And in hindsight, I think AEW would agree too. There is some logic because you should have the right to reply when the fans don't like it, and the fans are the most important thing. Yeah, it's not the best look. And it certainly didn't help after the fact. But look, it's all calmed down now, so if you ever want to see it, well, you absolutely can. Number 1, Vince wanted to give Melanie Pillman time. So if you were watching wrestling back on the 6th of October 1997, you would have been hit by the news that Brian Pillman had been found dead in his hotel room. It was absolutely horrible and one of the early wrestling tragedies that left you feeling cold. For some reason, 24 hours later, Vince McMahon decided he was going to interview his wife Melanie on the air. And well, it was one of the most sensationalist things that Raw has ever done. And no, it was not good. I mean, even if this was done for the right reasons, I don't think you should put a grieving widow on TV just one day later. And when Bruce Pritchard talked about this on his podcast, he basically implied that McMahon genuinely just wanted to give Melanie a chance to tell her story. And that's totally fine, but my gosh, at least wait a couple of months so she can get her thoughts together. And seeing somebody this upset being grilled on live television, well, it was really, really bad. Some people even called it a blatant exploitation. I do think it'd be hard to argue against that fact. And let's not forget what Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, or New Japan is meant to be. It's a distraction from your real life. So when all of a sudden you do pour this stuff into it and present it as entertainment, it's not good. It's very bad. And we should never do it again. And I'm quite confident sitting here in August 2025 that is not a problem we will ever have to address. Know of any other times where we did get silly excuses for mistakes made on television? Well, make sure you let us know in the comments below. Before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. You can then click the video on the screen to get even more wrestling information in your life. But otherwise, my friends, I appreciate you, and I will talk to you again soon.